Hello and welcome. My name is Michael.
I am Zana.
And we are holistic designers and bioarchitects. And we're here to speak to you about sacred geometry and natural pattern and how they can be used in design and architecture.
As an alchemy of life.
And we are going to give you a brief but concise overview of the pure principles of sacred geometry.
And how we can explore through sacred geometry the dance of polarities.
Exactly. So we're going to get straight to the point, and indeed that is the whole essence of most spiritual and scientific traditions and understandings of creation. That everything began with a single point, a masculine singularity that was replete with potential but inability to move, inability to actually create. It was inert. It was, as the feminine describes, a little boring. So what needed to happen? This potential had to have some activation point, some dynamic that opened up the energy.
So the feminine wants to expand, wants to go around, don't want to be so concentrated, so it dance around and circulate and move naturally. At some point say, okay, this is a good place to play.
And the masculine was enthralled, mesmerized. Look at all this possibility. I now have freedom to be able to express with this new dynamic. So he jumped his full attention onto a single point in this sphere of infinite potential. And in doing so, he realized that what the feminine had done was created an opportunity for dimensionality, for distance, for time, for movement, for creativity. And straight away, this single point where he said, I'm now here, and the feminine heard that declaration.
Feminine recognized this point because she knows him. She knows and wants to play more and go forward and dance and dance and dance around and create a new space for playing.
And again, this sense of what has just happened. I see two new points of interface, and what's this shape? What's this opening? What's this portal? What's this seed? What's this yoni of creation? So straight away, in a desire to understand, if this was who I was, and now I'm here, yet I'm also here and here. So what are these points? What does it mean? What is the relativity between them? And what's possible from there? And the feminine is, of course, enjoying this play because she can see all of these opportunities for a new dance.
Yes, and she is doing it because what it recognizes the interpenetration of the spaces. Mm-hmm. So she explored more and more and started around and stopped with the known points of reference because she knows him and she knows him.
And they are one. And so he's thinking, oh, what has just happened? She has interfaced here with this circle and here. This looks like, what should we call it? A square. So the birth of form through this gateway of creation. And then he also notices that that circle touches this line exactly in half. And here, and here, and here. And then, what are these points? What's the relativity? Oh, look. A smaller triangle, the same as this, but mirror image, a smaller triangle. This is what we call fractality. This is the matryoshka effect. This is the birth of continuity across scales. And not only that, this jumps from a flat plane into 3 dimensions because the feminine is in the field.
And it's not anymore circle, but a sphere. And she wants to go forward because it's a never-ending story of creation. So she just dances around the next point of reference and touch another dimensions.
And he sees immediately what she's just done. She's created a symbol for the polarity of yin and yang. She's done that effortlessly, created this field of knowing. And this is the dance between the masculine and feminine, between the known structures and forms and the unknown. What's out here? What's up here? And this was never more potently illustrated and impacting the masculine and the understanding of design and particular architecture when I met Zana. Because when I met Zana and I saw what she had been doing, and then I opened to what we could do, I realized that this was the missing component. This understanding of how to interface with the unknown consciously. No accident. This field effect of knowing was inherent in everybody, but fully active and conscious in Zana. So whereas before, an understanding of the patterns and the models and the systems and the relationships of the geometry was vital in the formation of space, this new, yet ancient and timeless connectivity and interface and interplay with the unknown became a gorgeous, vibrant dynamic that could ultimately be described as a dance of masculine and feminine. Not man and woman in that narrow, flat sense, but the masculine and feminine energies, two fundamental components that work effortlessly together.
But the unknown is like a connection with all what is. And we all are connected. We just need to remember. Universe is an endless field which is creating in form. So this is what we connected with.
Yeah. And the reality of this, we're going to give you an example of it. How this dynamic, not just in principle, but in practice, how we came together as one and embraced this creative potential, this known and unknown, this structure and the formless, and brought it together in a project. So in this project,
we connected with the unknown.
Yes.
But unknown means that we just don't put any names on any stamps. It does not need names, and it's just present.
And that extends into the land, it extends into the elements of the environment. It's not limited by some philosophy or design or practice or approach. So what we did was that we had these clients who had an intention and a beautiful movement towards creating a holistic home and a healing center on a small but beautiful piece of land adjacent to a forest with some views of mountains. A very ideal site. Of course, they came to us because they knew what was possible with this dynamic, but had no sense of what was going to happen. And that's the beauty, because nor did we. We didn't step into this with a preformed sense of what should be there. So one of the first components would be to invite the clients to connect with the land.
Yeah, and this is what we did. We, of course, connected with the land as well. Not always is possible to go there physically, but there are no borders, no time, no space, limitations. So we connected with the land, we connected with the intention of these beautiful people, and invited them to do the same with their land. So they were open to go and to stay overnight on the land, and we asked them to find a place which they especially love. So some piece of the land which is very near to their heart and their senses of what is there connected with them. So the same I did too. I connected with the land and with the potential and with their intention, and in this connection there was a very significant point which was opening the field. So I just did a simple point on the land where the energy of this connection between them was showing itself. And as I did it, we sent them the plan back with the request to point the place where they, especially on the land, felt well.
And so they slept, they dreamed, they woke up, and in silence they independently went into their land, out onto it, and they found 2 points. They found 2 points that they indicated on the drawing we had sent them, which was only an outline of the site. And they sent this back to us.
So approximately like this.
So the original point, and please understand that we did not tell them what this was, we just said nothing about it.
So it was not really to see on the plan.
A pinprick.
From.
So immediately, when we received this back and relaxed and opened, the masculine energy wanted to find out what's going on, what's the relationship here, what's the connectivity between these 2 points. And straight away, what became known was that the distance, which shouldn't actually have happened if you think about it, but the distance between his point and Xana's point was the exact same between his and hers, his partner. So there were 2 points, equal distance. That was interesting. So of course the temptation was to draw a line between here, but then the feminine said, no, not necessarily, that's too boxy, that's too... So then the masculine said, well, what is this degree? What is this angle? And does it mean anything? This desire for relationship understanding of the points. So what was amazing is that when this was measured, imported, measured, it was 144 degrees. It sounds like a nice number, it's a lovely number, but what does it mean? It's one of the internal angles of a decagon. Deca means 10, of a 10-sided shape. So immediately, these 2 points became 10 points that were anchored around the center. And suddenly there was the birth of a new pattern. There was the birth of a map of potentiality, which immediately expressed as a pentagon, a 5-sided shape, anchored in the center of his point. But this left 5 more, which created an inverse pentagon contained within that. And then the division, the connection between these 10 points became a 10-sided space. And meanwhile, this was beginning to the masculine to induce some order, to induce some sense of what was possible. And then these points began to connect with each other. Every second point began to connect, and a grid started forming. But so what? It was a static pattern that could be forced into some sort of structure, but it was still there, inert and needing something.
So I felt that there is need for energy flow around. So I started to explore another movement. And of course, the center is a nice reference. So let's see how it is playing with the points of reference.
The masculine wanted to create a straight line dynamic between A and B and C, but the feminine was much more open to what might that be if these points were free to dance. Not just as a rigid grid, but as a organic, natural flow. So it began to take this 3-dimensional quality, this spiralic flow that was opening up a whole new set of possibilities. And it began to become reminiscent of a toroidal field, of the primal geometry, sacred geometry of every thought, every heartbeat, every vision, and the core of every atom. So this spiralic dance began to present itself, and if this is coming into center, then what does the center hold? And what could happen next? So what emerged from this, we'll show you some plans, was a layout, a formulation of space within and around which all of these energies were free to dance. Once this was there, we presented it to them, and we basically showed them that this home was going to be a torus. And a number of things happened immediately. The first thing, she cried because she could feel the resonance with her core intention that had never been voiced or given form. And he had had a meditation just a night before where he saw a toroidal field rotating in front of his third eye. So this was absolutely in resonance, this flower of life that was extending out from this core center and expressing beautifully. And so this was an immediate yes. And we couldn't have gone into that process if we had pre-formed or preset that this is going to be a sacred geometry based on the number 8 or 12 or 10 or anything. This emerged naturally. And from this centering force, we were able to apply all the good design principles of bioarchitecture, feng shui, and so on. We looked at the orientation, the position of the sun, the primary views, how these rooms would lay out, and it emerged perfectly. So this was an example of how the masculine and feminine, giving form and field effect a shape, a movement, and a presentation that could be shareable and directly turn into a beautiful building.
How the same shape can be expressed in a masculine grid and in the feminine movement of energy.
And no one is superimposing itself on the other. You can look at this and see the purple flower of life just extending into you. You can also see the grid of geometry that defines its perimeters. So the masculine geometry provides context and stability for the feminine expression to open and explore. So that dance of safety, expansion, understanding and interrelationship modeling, this is the essence.
And the masculine and feminine is in equality, but not equality meaning the same.
50-50.
It's the equality of the moment, meaning this is the truth of the dance between these two aspects, always moving from one to another and merging together. So it's a beautiful example, and that's why we brought this project as
a perfect example of this interplay. And this was so exquisite a process, and it continues to unfold in its subtlety and in its magnificence, and this is available to everyone who opens to this dynamic. So this is pure fractality from small to large. You can imagine it continues out into the environment and can inform the position of many things and so on. So geometry, which is pattern similarity across scales from the very small to the very large, can express the same continuity of relationship and proportionality, can dance out. So we're left with, you saw here earlier the geometry of here. You see that this small tetrahedron on top is a fractal of the one down below. Put two of these together, you form a cube. You put those together and they dance within an icosahedron. This has 20 triangular faces, one of the platonic solids. And what can you do with this? You hold it up, you see how it best sits. It sits here on the surface. What could be happening inside? What if it's on its top and spinning around? What could this become? So this actually inspired us to create a medipod, a meditation pod, we'll show you, which you can actually sit inside. You can sit inside and meditate. So all of these points of information and relationship become focus points for consciousness. And from this, you can do anything. This can be a home, this can be
we were going forward and exploring how is it to be in a geometric form as home. So because we create mostly complex formations, we were interested to explore a simplicity of geometric form. And this is your beloved.
This is my beloved dodecahedron. 12 pentagonal faces, and it's drenched with the golden ratio, the geometry of life, the proportionality of the human body, fingers, ground to the belly button, ground to the top of your head. every biological protein and function is drenched with this proportionality. So you can see even the pentagram here in the middle. So we took this primary shape, fundamental, platonic solid, and imagine what would it be like to live in this? Could this actually stand up on itself? How would it best be utilized as a living space?
Yeah, and we wanted actually build a little tree house.
Yeah.
So we took it and made a wonderful, simple formation. Look, this is how it matches.
Yeah, it fits inside.
So it's a simple and it's practical. It provides a fantastic space in 2 levels, and simple roof is holding everything together. Right? So this is how we want you inspired to do your own creations.
Because nature has been research and development for billions of years through biology, and all around us, the universe is showing us how patterns and forms and sequences and movements and flows can directly inspire us in our decisions and intentions to create our own spaces, to affect change in our existing spaces, and to dare to see what's possible if we extend a little time, energy, attention, materiality into taking the inspiration from nature and letting it express in our world.
And the same you can do in every other life direction.
Yeah.
So think about this beautiful dance of feminine and masculine in your own self.
Yeah.
Think about the harmony of sacred geometry in your body, which is representing fantastic patterns of sacred geometry and harmonies from the bottom till the top. So this all, it can be a part of your life. It's not some theory, it's not something far away from life.
Yeah.
It is an alchemy of life.
Absolutely. The point is the stability, and the feminine can open up the possibility. This is the true alchemy and the dance of masculine and feminine. So thank you for watching. We're very excited to have you experience our enthusiasm for this subject. We hope and wish that it gave you an insight into what's possible, and we'll join you on the next video.
So we enjoyed to share with you, and thank you for your attention.
And if this has touched you at all, please share it.